Now, when interviewed with Nikkei, a Japanese news outlet, Kimishima mentioned that they want to get some younger leadership in there, which, my God, I couldn't agree with more. Some of the biggest issues with Nintendo, in my opinion, has been them feeling stuck in their old ways of doing things. Maybe someone could talk to this new younger president about things like YouTube and Twitch, for instance, and why literally every other gaming company in the world lets people on these platforms showcase their games uninhibited. Okay, maybe that's asking for too much, but it does make me a little bit more hopeful for things like that. No, past ChiGuy, I don't think you're asking too much, in fact. I think you're right on the money, as you always are. That clip was obviously from a video I made back when Furukawa was first appointed as the new president of Nintendo earlier this year, where I focused on the positives of a company who seems very stuck in their old ways, having a new leader that's on the younger side. And I think we're really starting to see that pay off. If you're a YouTuber who covers video games, you know Nintendo is by far the most difficult to cover because they are so restrictive on how you're allowed to use footage for their games. If you make videos like mine that are usually 100% gameplay footage, this can be a very tricky process if you want to make your videos monetized. They introduced the Nintendo Partners program a while back where you could partner your channel with Nintendo. It sucked. Honestly, it sucked hard. Essentially, you had to either fully partner your channel with the Big N, meaning they took a cut of every single video you made, regardless if it involved Nintendo or not, or you could mark the Nintendo-specific ones for approval, but in that case, the videos had to be manually approved by people at Nintendo. Reports came in of people sometimes waiting a week or more before a video was approved so they could make it go live. Imagine trying to cover Nintendo news, but you have to wait a week to post each video. Probably not the best thing for the growth of your channel. But it looks like that's all going away as Nintendo has just released a new set of guidelines for online video and image sharing. Here's what they had to say. You may monetize your videos and channels using the monetization methods separately specified by Nintendo. Other forms of monetization of our intellectual property for commercial purposes are not permitted. We encourage you to create videos that include your creative input and commentary. Videos and images that contain mere copies of Nintendo game content without creative input or commentary are not permitted. You may, however, post gameplay videos and screenshots using Nintendo system features, such as the capture button on Nintendo Switch, without additional input or commentary. You are only permitted to use Nintendo game content that has been officially released, or from promotional materials officially released by Nintendo, such as product trailers or Nintendo Directs. Take that, you leakers and embargo breakers. If you want to use the intellectual property of a third party, you are responsible for obtaining any necessary third-party permissions. You are not permitted to imply or state that your videos are officially affiliated with or sponsored by Nintendo. We reserve the right to remove any content that we believe is unlawful, infringing, inappropriate, or not in line with these guidelines. So basically, you're allowed to monetize through approved platforms, those specified by Nintendo. They go on to list those. You know, the big ones are there: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. But they also make it clear that you're not allowed to use it for other commercial purposes, essentially, you know, like making t-shirts, your own games, whatever. You're not allowed to do anything like that. They want to make it clear that they're loosening the reins a bit here, but specifically for video sharing, nowhere else. They also list a few more Q&As at the bottom. The most important, I think, is number 1, which is what types of content are acceptable under the guidelines, what types of content are not acceptable. They say we encourage you to use Nintendo game content in videos and images that feature your creative input and commentary. For example, Let's Play videos and video game reviews are within the scope of the guidelines. However, you may not simply upload or live stream an existing Nintendo video, gameplay footage without your own creative input, or a copy of content created by someone else. For example, mere copies of Nintendo promotional trailers, tournaments, music soundtrack, gameplay sequences, and art collections are outside the scope of the guidelines. I think you could probably include the Nintendo Directs in there. They don't want you basically just taking the raw Nintendo Direct and re-uploading it to your channel. The only types of common content I could still see there being a bit of a problem for are like long plays, gameplay videos that don't have any commentary with them, because, one of the examples they give here is gameplay without your own creative input. It's kind of weird because I do feel like the way you play could still be considered, creative input, but it seems like specifically they mean commentary. Guide videos are another one, a video that shows you maybe how to get to a secret area in a game. Oftentimes, those types of videos don't have any commentary. Would they be at risk? Another one that gives me a little bit of pause is question 8. I am planning to host a gaming tournament using Nintendo video games and upload or live stream a video of that tournament. Are these activities subject to the guidelines? Uploading and live streaming Nintendo game content from a Nintendo authorized or licensed tournament is within the scope and subject to the guidelines. However, hosting a tournament is a separate activity that is outside the scope of the guidelines. Does that mean you can kind of do whatever you want with your own tournaments, or are they not okay? Because that terminology, the outside the scope of the guidelines, is the exact term they use for question 1 for things that aren't okay. For example, mere copies of Nintendo promotional trailers, tournaments, music soundtracks, gameplay sequences, and art collections are outside the scope of the guidelines. So that's a little confusing. But all in all, this is a huge step in the right direction if you ask me. Nintendo has long been the last major holdout in terms of gaming companies who are so protective of footage from their games, and that grip is finally starting to loosen. This is actually a really big deal. It shouldn't be downplayed, and I think it is really going to benefit both content creators and Nintendo immensely. Obviously, those of us who stream or make videos are going to have a much easier time doing so in terms of ones that feature Nintendo footage in said videos. If you haven't done this yourself, you have no idea what a pain it is to avoid copyright claims, cutting up footage, rearranging it and such an unnecessary hassle. But Nintendo as well. There's a reason literally everyone else came around on this stuff years ago. They see it as what it really is. Free advertising. The amount of people who are, say, watching a Breath of the Wild Let's Play instead of buying it are probably so few, if they even exist at all. If they don't buy it, they probably weren't going to in the first place. I've said it in the past, I could see this for games that are extremely heavy on narrative, like your Quantic Dream or your Telltale games. But yeah, I don't think someone is going to see gameplay of Mario Odyssey and be like, oh, I know what happens now, I know the story, I don't need to play it myself. It's just not something I see negatively affecting the type of games Nintendo makes. And positively, I know for a fact there are tons of YouTubers, big ones, who avoid Nintendo largely because of all these current issues. If you do this for a living, if you make videos, stream, whatever, you don't want to risk your video getting copyright claimed just because you used 5 seconds too long of concurrent footage. So you just avoid it. And the amount of channels like Game Grumps, for instance, that are whitelisted manually by Nintendo are obviously extremely few. If you're one of those people, there's one in the comments section of every video I make about this topic. Oh, but the Game Grumps, they do Nintendo Let's Plays already. Yeah, it's because they're whitelisted, meaning Nintendo has cleared the channel themselves to make whatever content they want. There aren't many channels that get that treatment. But now that's going to be pretty much everyone, so you can expect a ton more. And let's also, before I close, just recognize the timing here for a second. This announcement came just a little over a week before the launch of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Arguably the biggest Switch release of the year, probably the biggest Switch release period in terms of online play. You don't think this could it possibly have anything at all to do with Nintendo wanting there to be as much Smash hype out there as humanly possible when the game releases? Just live streams, let's plays, tutorials, every type of content you can think of getting churned out 24/7, making anyone who's not playing it feel totally left out. Probably just a coincidence, right? Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Nintendo, you kept us waiting, huh? But you finally did it. You came to your senses, realized maybe you should enter the year 2006 and see the free advertising you'll get on YouTube is better than the millions you'll spend taking out TV ads or billboards, whatever. Welcome to the future, boys. Let me know your thoughts on Nintendo's new stance with regards to video creation on sites like YouTube and Twitch, and how do you think this is going to affect the Big N's presence online? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion on Nintendo's new take on user-created video content. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter at Johnny Zakari, and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends, link to both in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching.